Thanks for joining in with the Lifeability series of Human Potential. I'd love to start off with you exploring with me. What was your first inclination to wanting to start a business and what drove that?
Thank you. Great question. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to be here with you and with everyone who is listening or watching. I'm genuinely thinking back. Experience was that I did a degree in business, and then I came out of that and I got a job with an incredible company called Results Corporation here in Australia, and they fundamentally taught me how to grow any business anytime, and it was a really amazing culture. We worked really, really hard. There's a lot of young people like myself in the business. I loved it. And I just remember having this thought. And I remember I was having lunch with my mother one day and I had this conversation with her where I said, I just don't want, I don't want a normal 9-to-5 life. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's fantastic, but it's not what I want. I wanted something different. I wanted to be able to just create a different kind of life, I guess. So for me, business was that pathway.
If you can go back and think about what that was in you that said, I don't want a 9-to-5, I want something more for myself. Like, can you tap into the specific feeling or the picture that you had in mind?
I think it was the typical picture that most entrepreneurs have, where they initially want freedom. They want to be able to make choices and go places and do stuff and not have to ask permission of others. I think that was it. I think if I really thought about it, the feeling would have been one of reaching or wanting more. I haven't thought about it like this for maybe ever. So yeah, I think it was just wanting more fundamentally, wanting a different life, wanting to have some freedom, not wanting to be my perception of being trapped in a job. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and I actually loved my very first job. I loved it a lot. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I just wanted more. That's fundamental.
It's so interesting you say that, because as I was preparing for this podcast, I was thinking back on my own journey. It was about wanting to do things my way, rather than being told what to do and having to follow the red tape. I wanted to be able to bend that red tape and make it pink, and ultimately, yeah, it is about creating freedom. And so it's really refreshing to hear that, I guess, is a general theme that probably happens in a lot of entrepreneurial minds. And so that leads me to asking you, because you mentioned an entrepreneur, what would you differentiate between a business owner and an entrepreneur, or would you say it's the same thing?
That's an interesting question. A business owner, I think there are different levels. I think every business owner is an entrepreneur. It's just about their level of risk, their drive for growth, that makes someone probably what you might call a true entrepreneur, like who is driven to grow something, wants to scale, isn't going to accept a business doing one thing at a sort of smaller level. But I think everyone in business is an entrepreneur. It's just the level of, are you a small to medium-sized business owner in a local area and that's your world, or are you Richard Branson? There's obviously a big strip between, the local business and a Branson kind of mindset. So, and we all are, in my view, we all are wherever we are on that entrepreneurial journey, and they're not right or wrong. It just is, where are you? But fundamentally, being in business is risky. It takes something. It takes persistence. It takes determination. It takes courage. So it doesn't matter how small the business or how big the business, everyone is having some experience of that journey.
And when you started your first business, did you notice that, these traits that you're talking about, persistence, courage, are those familiar to you prior to that? Like, did you see parts of you as you were growing up and being that, or was that something that you had to step into?
No, I had always, I'd always been a leader, class captain in primary school and house captain and then prefect, and even at university I was in the student union. So I'd always been kind of elected, acted as, and got recognized as a leader. So I think some of those things were already there. And of course, you know, I had various, like everybody, we all have challenges that we have to grow through as teenagers and young people, and I had mine. So definitely took some persistence and some determination to do all of that. And I think it was my determination and commitment to wanting something different that had me start my first business. I was very lucky to go and do Money and You, which you're a graduate of. I was very lucky to go and do that when I was only 22. And 6 months later, I started my first business. So with $1,100 to my name. That determination that I had, that drive that I had, was what had me start that in my lounge room with really no real, I look back and go, I had absolutely no right to go into that business. I was so young, and yet it was an advisory firm. It was about helping people grow their businesses. And I never had a business. I just knew I was passionate about growing businesses and helping people achieve what they wanted. So yeah, I would say determination and also some naivety, honestly. When you start a business that young, you know, or any time, you really don't know what you don't know, right? Then you got to get in and learn it in real time and go, oh, surely I'm just going to hang on for the ride here and figure this stuff out. So I think I was blessed with lots of optimism, lots of determination, a definite desire for something more, which I talked about before, and went for it and learned a lot along the way, obviously.
Would you say starting your first business or making that move, you had to jump through certain hoops to be able to do that within yourself? And what was it that said to you, that's it, that's what I'm going to do? And then did you have a way to mitigate risk? Like, was there a certain amount of money that you wanted to make, and you said to yourself, if you don't make that by a certain amount of time, you're going to go back to whatever you were doing? Was there any of that, or?
None of that. And I have never once in my life had a conversation that says, if I don't do X, then I'm going to go back and do Y. But it's never, ever been a part of my thinking.
Yeah, so there's never been a plan B. There's always been plan A, and that's always going to be.
We're going after plan A, and that's what we're going after, and that's shall be. I definitely did that. I didn't have any safety net. I'd blown all my credit cards when I was 18, 19 years old. I didn't have any access to credit. I literally had $1,100 to my name when I started that business. So, you know, you just got to go produce results, right?
Yeah.
In that scenario, there's no way forward. You just got to go forward. So, and look, I could have, at that point, I could have gone and gotten another job, but it just wasn't what I wanted. So I thought, well, I'll just have a crack and get on with it, which is what happened. And look, like I said, that naivety was good for me because I was young enough to know I didn't know what I was doing, if that makes sense. And so I went back to Money and You, and I was on logistics. Every time the program came to town, I was around those entrepreneurs. I just put myself in spaces with other business people and other entrepreneurs. You know, Michael Gerber said you should systemize your business so it works without you. So that's what I did. So I didn't have an argument for why these things that you read about in books and you meet other business owners and entrepreneurs who are doing that stuff. I didn't have an argument for why that wouldn't work. I was just like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that, right? Because I was young. I was open. I was willing to do all of that stuff. I didn't have an argument for why it wouldn't work, which is, as we get older, that can become a thing, right? Where you can have an argument for why a certain strategy won't work versus just having a go at it. So I think that really served me at that time also. So the other part of the naivety is I had no idea how hard it was going to be. I just wanted something and thought I'd go for it, and then had to figure it out as I went. So if I had known how hard it would be, would I have done something different? But I can't imagine what.
And that's probably a good thing in a way, because oftentimes fear holds us back, right? So that naivety helps you push through without having something lagging you and holding you down. I would love to explore this concept around resources and money when you're starting out and when you're trying to grow, because there's a saying that it's a lot harder to make your first K than it is to make $1 million. What are some of the strategies that you used to be able to fund your business when you were growing?
I just have one mantra: sales solves everything. Sales solves everything at the right margin. So if you're selling something at the wrong margin, it won't help you. But if you're selling things at the right margin, then sales cash flow allows you to grow, etc. So for me, it's about making sure that the sales engine of the business is doing well, is adding value, converting well because we're adding a lot of value and making a difference, and the product or service is strong and does what it's supposed to do plus some. For me, it was always about just continuing the growth, which then funded what was needed. And look, I didn't take very much money out of the business in those early years. I had previously been on a very high salary in my very first job. It was extremely well paid for the time and the industry, but I didn't take much out of the business and just made it work and then focused on growth. Just continue to focus on growth. And that's pretty much what I do now on all of our businesses and with all of my clients' businesses. We just focus forward on growth. We take care of the details as we go, but it's continually about focusing forward.
And so for someone starting out and they've got this concept about increasing cash flow, however, they're a little bit unaware as to where to invest in, what are some of the areas that you would recommend them to invest in for growth to happen?
You can't grow your business unless you grow yourself. Your business is a reflection of you. Everything that works about you will show up in the business. Everything that doesn't work about you will show up in the business. Everything that's kind of okay about you will show up in the business. Your business is a reflection of you. I noticed that in my first business, I was like, that's so weird. That guy's super disheveled, and so is his business is super disheveled. Or I had a client that was really rigid and immovable. And so the business was very much like that. And so I was like, why does everyone not see the same thing? The business is a reflection of its founder and its owner. So you cannot grow a business unless you grow yourself. It's impossible. Your business will never outstrip you. So if you're going to invest in anything, it would be investing in your personal and business development growth, getting experts around you, doing personal development work, clearing blocks that might be in your psyche that you're not aware of or what have you. All of that is incredibly important.
And what are some characteristics that you would say a truly powerful and successful entrepreneur must build to be able to grow exponentially?
Well, for me, it's strategy, leadership, and growth. So if I look at the themes of my life in all the businesses I've worked with in terms of clients, all the businesses I've had, the key to it is having the right strategy. So hope is not a strategy. Working your behind off is not a strategy. A strategy is how do you get from A, where you are now, to B, where you want to be in the fastest, easiest, best cash flow, least risk, most profitable way. How are you going to do that in a leveraged way? That's the first thing, is we have to do the thinking and the planning and the strategic first. The second thing is who you are as a leader, continually to develop yourself as a leader and a focus forward on growth. Yes, we're informed by the past, but this is where we're going. Those three things for me are must-haves if you want to be successful and if you want to continue to grow and develop businesses and your journey.
What does leadership mean to you?
I think that leadership is about being able to inspire others to come on a journey with you. It's about adding value and being of service to others. And even if I think back to being a house captain when I was 12 years old, it's still the same, right? It's about rallying people to see a future, to want to participate in something and to want to give their all and be of service to whoever that is about. It's really about having a vision and being able to have other people buy into that vision and want to participate and give their all to it. And it's also about empowering others. So I have absolutely, leadership roles in childhood, in schools and universities are very different in some ways. Same, but different, obviously, and different environment creates different pressures. Leadership is absolutely still about inspiring others. It's about being of service to others. And it's also about empowering the leaders around you. So I see my job as a leader and my entrepreneurs that I work with, their job as leaders is to empower the leaders around them, to empower and develop the leaders in their businesses to be able to rise up and lift the whole thing together. So I'd say that that's the additional piece that would be empowering the other leaders around you at all times.
And I guess, going into that and bringing it home out of business. So, you can be influential or be able to support your team to be true leaders. However, when you come back home, and the old stories of the narratives that have been part of your growing up, and then trying to have conversations with your family around that can sometimes bring resistance. And so how do you show up as a leader at home and in the service that you provide?
Do you mean that it's sometimes hard to be a prophet in your own land, or hard to be a leader at home?
Yeah, it's sometimes difficult to be able to move the people that are closest to you.
I have been very blessed. As much as my parents didn't want me to go into my first business because they were in business, but they knew how hard it was, obviously, and they didn't want me to go through that, and they wanted me to keep my amazing job that I had. But fundamentally, they supported me. I have been very blessed to be surrounded by people who do support and empower whatever I'm up to. Even if they think it's a little bit mad, they're still supportive. And, you know, one of the reasons I fell in love with my husband is that he is not in any way threatened. He's my biggest cheerleader. If I want to do something, that's what, you know, he's completely on board. That's not to say he doesn't have questions or challenge me or whatever, any of that stuff, but fundamentally he's, you know, I was up to a lot of stuff when we met, and he's been fully committed to empowering whatever I'm out to make a difference to. And is a true partner. So I've been very blessed in all of that. And I think, you know, it took me a while. I didn't get married till late. I was 39 when I got married. So it took a while to find someone that was going to be like that. But he showed up, so that was good. So I've been very blessed. But I think the other thing is you just have to be true to yourself. I'm pretty much the same person in whatever environment I'm in. So yeah, and look, if I think about my closest friends, for example, you know, I've got girlfriends that I met in primary school. We're still friends today, high school, university, all of that. Very different work lives. I think I might be the only one out of that group. I'm the only one in business. So they are very supportive and proud of me. We're very supportive of each other. I think you just have to foster people around you who respect and support and love and nurture you, and you won't always get that. Of course, I've had people along the way that didn't want to do that. Well, they're not in my life.
You've going through the journey of building and then having to rebuild again because that empire's collapsed. What has been in you, and what have you noticed that has been needed for you to go back to doing what you're doing?
So just for context for everyone, I had built a very large, successful business that through a series of mistakes and a series of missteps, I ended up losing that business, and we lost everything. We lost our home, we lost a lot. And I had a new baby at the time. It was incredibly tough, very, very difficult couple of years. I would say I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but I also grew and learned so much of that process that it made me a better entrepreneur. And it made me a better advisor for the people I help grow their businesses. I can smell financial issues at 10 feet, 100, and then can help people do stuff about that before it gets too late. So yeah, it was very tough. Again, I've always had a lot of support in my family. Same calling, really, wanting something different, wanting something more, wanting to correct the mistakes, do things differently, demonstrate doing things differently, do what worked, again, change what didn't work, experiment with all of that. I think the key to being in business and the key to coming up out of the ashes like that is just determination again. And resilience and a commitment to something more being possible. That's fundamentally what a business owner and entrepreneur is committed to. They are committed to and believe that something more is possible than the norm. So that's fundamentally who I am. That kind of was no alternate really than to come back and have another crack.
And, you know, you mentioned having that grit really, right? Like wanting more and that persistence that really put you in the direction of actually going after something again and rebuilding. And I would say that, you know, that is probably a number one quality. And in addition to having a supportive environment for someone to get to a level that they want to get to. I guess relating it back to health and, you know, business being a source of money, how important is it to be connected to your spiritual self to be able to hone in and create wealth from a financial point, because wealth is obviously multifactorial, in terms of achieving the financial goals that you want?
I think spirituality is such a deeply personal journey. I've got friends and colleagues that are atheists that are incredibly successful entrepreneurs. It makes absolutely not a dot of difference to them. And then I've got people that are the other end of that extreme who are full blown in one religion or another, orthodox. And it makes a huge difference to them. It's part of their faith, that they have faith as they're going on this journey. They have faith that they're where they're meant to be and they're in God's hands. And then we have other people that I can think of that I'm either friends with or in business or clients who are more in the spiritual realm, where the universe provides, there's no mistakes, all of that stuff. So I think it's deeply personal, and I think it matters. What matters is what matters to you. So if faith is a part of your life, then faith will be a part of your business journey and your wealth journey. If it's not, it won't be.
Would you say someone has to have a true calling to be able to be successful?
I think they have to want to add value to others, most definitely. You have to want to do something for others. You might want to make money, definitely. Especially initially, when you start out in business, initially you're hungry to get somewhere financially, right? But how you're going to do that always is to add value to others, or add value to a project, or add value. You are adding value in some way to something. You are being of service. So really successful businesses, they make a difference to the people they serve. So yeah, I think that's my version of a calling, is you have to want to make a difference to someone or something to have that business be successful. If you're only in it for the money, it's not going to be successful, or it will eventually run out of puff, or you will eventually run out of puff, because there's nothing inspiring about that.
And in your experience, what are some of the money stories that you've seen, someone who's just starting a business and maybe making their first 100K, to someone who's, an 8 or 9 figure income earner through their business?
In terms of money stories, I think we all have our own relationship with money and success and what that looks like. There's a couple of things about it. One is, it's sort of a two-part. I'm going to give you a two-part answer. Thinking right on the spot about this as we speak. So if I think about myself or my clients who have grown and reached a level of success, right? When everyone starts out, everyone is, unless you're coming into it with a silver spoon, you're starting out with nothing. You're having a red hot crack at it. I was speaking to a client last week, and he was like, well, the house we lived in when I did that was a fibro shack. Now he lives in a mansion, right? But it's a 25-year journey to go from the fibro shack to the mansion. So there is a shift as you grow and develop and become who you continue to become, where your financial journey is shifting, you're shifting, your financial journey is shifting. It's all shifting as you're going from sort of zero startup to some level of success, right? And that's true for everyone. Even if you get a job, you come out of uni or you come out of school, you've got no money, you get a job, you start saving, you start growing, you start getting promoted. As you grow, your access to wealth grows. So I think there's that part of it. The other part about people's money story, the biggest thing that I see get in the way is people's relationship with scarcity, where they look to what they don't have versus what could be possible. They fear it never being enough, so they're constantly focused on their next buck. They can't afford to do this, can't afford to do that, versus figuring out how to afford to do the things that will create more cash. So that scarcity mindset is the biggest killer of what's possible. So I think that's the stuff you have to watch out for in your own relationship with money, how you think about spending, your relationship with risk, how risk averse you are. All of that is your own money stuff. And what you make success mean, ironically, a lot of people have a fear of failure, but when people get to a certain point, then other people have a fear of success. So when you have a fear of failure, it's about not being enough. When you have a fear of success, it's about losing it all once you've got it. So I think all of that money mindset stuff can get in the way. Those are the big things that I'd say get in the way, that I see get in the way, that we deal with through our programs and the work we do with people. And then you've also got your sort of almost linear journey as you're growing. You might go back a few steps and come back up again, but there's a pathway that you're on that's shifting your relationship with money as you go.
And there's this concept about self-worth equals net worth. What are your thoughts around that? And how does one build self-worth? Or is that a journey that kind of happens as you keep going onto your growth journey anyway?
I think we all build self-worth over time. Well, we build our stories about ourselves over time, whether that's a good story or a bad story. Self-worth equals your net worth. I mean, you have to believe in yourself. There's a certain level of confidence that's required to say, I'm starting a business, off I go, right? There is a level of belief that's required, a level of confidence, a level of optimism, a level of commitment, a level of determination, a level of resilience, all of that. So I think that's important. And what I see is when I have clients that don't value themselves, the business won't charge properly. If they don't value themselves enough, they will not be priced properly. They'll be underselling what they're doing. So how you value yourself is important, and it does show up in business. And if anyone's thinking about it and not sure, well, the irony is that if people have a conversation that they're a failure or they're not enough, and that's what's holding them back from going into business, they have the experience of failing anyway. You're in the world of, I'm not enough, I couldn't possibly, blah, 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 but they know they want something else, but they're not going for it. They'll have the experience of being a failure or failing anyway. So what I tell people is, well, you may as well fail for real, because you're having the experience in any case. So you're better off to have a crack and be fully self-expressed and just have a go at it and fail for real, and you'll feel exactly how you feel today. Or most likely you'll actually make it. Some kind of breakthrough will happen and something will shift, and you'll have forward motion towards what you want. So, I mean, sometimes people call that failing forward and at least having a crack.
And I like that, because that plays into imposter syndrome, right? It's like a lot of the times, if we just did whatever we did and moved through it, then like you said, we might actually fail or we might actually succeed, but we've given that a proper go.
And the irony is people feel like a failure anyway when they haven't had a go. So you may as well have a go and experience it for real, but you'll pop out the other side for sure.
What have been your 3 biggest learnings for you to be able to get to where you are today?
I think number 1 is you have to back yourself. That's really important. I put someone else in a business I founded. I put someone else in as the CEO, and that was disastrous. I should have put myself in as the CEO, but at that time I didn't have the confidence. So I had the confidence to raise 1.8 million in 2 weeks, start a business, but I put one of my other business partners in as CEO instead of myself. And I look back now and go, that was crazy. Why did you not back yourself? But at the time, I really thought he had more experience than me in that realm and in that sector, and that would make more sense. So I was being strategic about it, but it was the wrong thing to do. I would say back yourself.
And how do you push yourself through that and say, you know what, I am going to back myself, even though my logic brain is saying that person's probably going to be able to outgrow this for me?
I think if you're the passionate one, if you're the one that's truly, truly, truly committed to the mission of the business, what it's here to do, the difference it's here to make, the value it's here to add, how you want to be of service, then as long as you can lead others, you should be backing yourself. And then having the expertise you need around you, not putting the expertise ahead of the passion and the heart for whatever it might be. But you definitely need those experts around you, for sure. I mean, it's part of a journey, right? I didn't at the time, I had no issue with making that decision. It was a good decision in my head at the time. It was only years afterwards that I went, what was I thinking? So some of these things, you actually have to go through them before you can look back and see what happened. I didn't see it as me not backing myself. I saw it as me making a smart decision. And it was only years later that I went, that was madness. Why did I do that? That was silly. But I'd grown through that experience. So then you see things with different eyes when you've grown through something, right? So I didn't know at the time. So, but I would.
It's like chicken or the egg.
What's that?
It's like chicken or the egg.
Yeah. And hindsight's a very powerful thing, but it doesn't actually serve you in the moment. So you take a lesson from it later, which is kind of the point. So just generally would be back yourself wherever you can. That's one thing. You have to be resilient. You have to be able to bounce back when stuff goes wrong. It's not if things will go wrong in business. And it's also not if things will go wrong in life. They will, absolutely. So it's just knowing that that will happen and who you're going to be about it when it does. So you have to be able to rise above whatever's gone on, think strategically and come up with solutions. You have to be resilient. So that I was a CEO of a company once, and I had a general manager in that business. And he came to me one day and said, "When will this ever be over?" And he meant all the people stuff, all the stuff with people. And I'm like, "Never, dude. It's never going to be over. This is human beings.
Yeah.
This is what we're dealing with. These are human beings that have needs and stuff, and things go on, and life is messy. It's never going to be over." And the minute he got that, he was like, when he really got it, then he could stop resisting that this stuff shouldn't be this way. Stuff is going to go wrong in business. People are going to do stupid stuff. It's just things are going to happen. So you have to be able to be resilient.
What's your way of building that resilience muscle?
Honestly, I think it just comes back to determination again, and focusing forward is really important. The other thing that's really important for resilience is being able to take responsibility for whatever didn't work, for whatever happened, even if it was someone else did something to your business or you or something. You still have to look at, well, what can I be responsible for that I got that result? Even when I lost that business, eventually what gave me my power back was me going, well, I'm a grown adult. With 3 other partners, we produced that result. But even if they weren't there, I produced that result. How about I just look at it like that? What can I be responsible for? And then there were things I identified that I could be responsible for. And as soon as I took ownership of all that, I got my power back. I think resilience is determination and a commitment to see something through, to getting through the other side of whatever it might be. It's also taking stock, pausing and taking responsibility for whatever result you've got, even if it's not a fair one, even if it's someone did the wrong thing to you. Well, how did you let that happen? And what can you be responsible for that happened? I think that determination and drive is really what's going to push you through being resilient and problem solving and popping out the other side. And the other part is knowing that it's not if, it's when. Just know that it's not if, it's when. And when it happens, you'll be like, oh, okay, great. Now I've got to deal with this. Versus, oh my God, this happened. No, stuff is going to happen. That's just, and I'm not saying I was like this back then. I'm saying this is the lessons I've learned. And the third thing, you have to be passionate and fully believe in whatever it is you're doing. You have to be fully passionate and believe it. Like I am, I love sales. Absolutely love sales. I love having people understand sales. I love having people change their mindset about sales. My approach is that sales is about being of service. So, and I fundamentally believe in anything I'm doing, anything our businesses are selling, I fundamentally believe in that, whatever it is. You have to have that level of passion and belief in what you're doing. And that's why, I recently did an experiment and I had a 91% conversion rate. Other people trying to do the same thing have a 22% conversion rate or maybe a 30% conversion rate. They just don't believe it as much. It's not about scripts and all that stuff. It's really, are you passionate? How much do you believe in it? So you have to really believe and be passionate about what you're doing.
And that brings me back to, Napoleon Hill talks about it through burning desire, or I guess Bucky's work, we talk about mastery, right? My question to you then is, would you recommend someone gets really, really good at one thing or gets good at lots of different things?
I think Bucky talks about Buckminster Fuller, if everyone knows, he was a genius that lived in the 20th century. He talked about the real power as being a generalist, not being a specialist. So the world had started to go into a view that, and if you think about medicine, for example, that people specialized, and when they specialized, they earned more, right? Because of their level of expertise and skill went up, which is all true. Get that. There is real power in being a generalist. And in business, I think there is absolute power in being a generalist. You have to understand numbers, you have to understand marketing, you have to understand sales, you have to understand how you want your business to operate and exceed expectations, you have to understand the value of the products and services you offer, you have to be able to deal with people of all types, both in your team and outside of your team. You have to, you are a generalist. Me personally, that's my strength. I've worked with so many different types of businesses. There's sort of no business I can walk into any business and help them grow because I'm a generalist. I haven't specialized in one niche or another, although I do a lot of work in construction because of my background in that space. But I am definitely a generalist. So I would say being a generalist is very powerful.
And who would you recommend your first hire to be?
Your first hire, that's entirely down to the business. But generally, early days, your focus has got to be on lead flow. Your focus has got to be on leads coming in. So probably someone to make in the old days, the phone ring, today to make the DMs buzz, whatever it is, inquiries come in. So that's probably the most important thing, is to have the leads flowing in, because then sales solves everything. Because if you have leads coming in and you're selling well, you're adding value in that sales process and people are coming on, you definitely need to be able to deliver what you promised. But certainly you'll have the cash to hire the expertise you'll need to do that well.
Amazing. I want to finish off with one last question.
Sure.
I would love you to share your thoughts on why, or how is it that certain people get to a success level, however, they're very emotionally numb? And is that a strength that helps them to get there? And when does it become a challenge?
Say the last part for me.
And when does it become a challenge? Because obviously when they reach that level, they're then emotionally numb and feel disconnected, and life doesn't feel fulfilling. So how do they recognize when they need to shift gear?
If you mean that people work too much and suddenly wake up one day and go, oh my God, what have I done with my life? And they feel disconnected from their family or what have you, that certainly does happen. But that in myself and in my clients, I don't see anyone getting to a certain level of success and being emotionally numb. To be successful in business, you have to be emotional. You have to feel stuff. You have to connect with people. I don't mean emotional like hysterical. I mean, you have to have emotional intelligence. You have to be able to read a room. You have to be able to read a relationship. So I guess
my question is probably more around because someone probably needs to have charisma and emotional intelligence, as you're saying, to be able to connect, right? However, it can also be ingenuine or inauthentic. And so the fulfillment isn't as much as it would be if it was purely an authentic connection, if that makes sense. And so I guess that's what I have noticed and observed. And I wonder whether there's any of that you have observed along your journey.
I think that the people who do very well in life are very authentic. The people who do very well in their businesses are authentic. If you're not, what you're pointing to, I've definitely seen that, but the businesses don't last. Because people, we're like dogs. We can smell fear. We can smell fakeness. We can sniff that stuff out if we're paying attention. Obviously, a lot of people miss that stuff. But I think authenticity is absolutely crucial to being successful in business, to being a great leader. And I think the thing you have to watch out for, actually, letting the drive, the determination, all of that to produce something, to create something, take away from your family life or to a point where it's detrimental. Obviously, there's sacrifices that you make. Anyone who's going for something, there's sacrifices that you make, but you don't want to let that get too far out of whack. Otherwise, you will have that emotional disconnect that you're talking about.
Okay, to wrap up, what is your advice for our listeners, for people that are starting out onto their entrepreneurial journey? Strategies or resources that you can recommend?
Get yourself educated, read a lot of books, listen to a lot of podcasts, meet with people who are already in business, even people who are already in the business that you might want to get into. Look for mentors who will help you. That certainly made a huge difference to me. Surrounding myself, I kept putting myself in environments where I was around people who were already successful, already doing well, already entrepreneurs. So put yourself in those environments. That would be a huge thing. And keep doing that. I still do that. I've been doing that for 30 plus years. I would say do that and keep doing that. Have people around you who are going to stretch you. I've got one friend of mine, we've been in business together, we've been friends for 20, 25 years or something, both understand the worlds we're in. We meet pretty much around New Year's every year and we talk about our goals for the year ahead and this and that and what worked and what didn't work. We push each other, added value to each other. So you want to have people around you who can support you like that. I think that's, other than everything we've already talked about, I actually think getting yourself educated, focusing on your own growth and development, because your business will never outstrip you, and making sure you're putting yourself in environments where people are already ahead of you. They're already somewhere you might want to be, or they've seen the road ahead. They've already walked that road that you're coming up. So just put yourself in environments where you have access to people who've been there and done that in business and can support you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ryll. If people want to find out a little bit more about you and your work, where is the best place to find you?
They can go to ryllburgin.com. So just my name with .com on the end of it. That's probably the easiest, and just message us from there and and we go from there.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right, pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, this is where your journey of exploration continues. Please subscribe to the Lifeability podcast so that you can stay tuned when new episodes come online. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. The mission at Lifeability is to inspire you to create a more fulfilling life for yourself and improve your quality of life. So why not share this podcast with your loved ones and create a ripple effect together? Until next time, Asante Sana.